What is up, everybody? It is Wednesday, May 13th, and this will be our eighth grade social studies live stream. It's kind of crazy to think that it is already halfway through the month of May, and especially for you eighth graders, if things were obviously different. This will be a really fun time. This last month of the school year goes by really quick, but we always, have fun with the eighth grade since you guys spent your last 3 years here. We do some fun things with like some of the field trips and activities and things that we do in the school. I know normally we would have had something like um, the lunch that the eighth grade goes to. We've done that the last few years, so that's always fun. Went to Winking Lizard last year. Eighth grade trip would have been coming up, and just a lot of other cool things. So really bummed for you guys, but you know, who knows? Maybe we'll be able to do something in the summer once everything maybe clears up a little bit, and or hopefully clears up. But yeah, doesn't look like we have anybody just yet. So hopefully we can get some people here in the chat before we jump into our assignment for the day. All right. But until we get people here, I just want to say that I hope everybody's doing well. Hope everybody's staying safe, and still taking this global pandemic seriously. Still kind of weird to say that and hear that. Um, to think that during our lifetime that we're going through something like this. But yeah, this is still something that does need to be taken seriously. Obviously, if you're keeping up with the news, it's still out there, it's still going on, even though some states are slowly reopening. Ohio's in that process as well, and really kind of seeing how each state does it differently is a nice connection to our topic that we're going to get into today. And I'll kind of talk about that here about 10 after, because that's normally whenever we do start these live streams. I like to give the first 10 minutes for people to um, just kind of join in. And if you just want to chat and hang out for a few minutes, we always do that. So if you're watching this later, jump ahead maybe to 11 minutes or so you can get into the actual material and stuff like that. Also, eighth grade, I wanted to apologize for not being able to go live last week. But I made a separate video talking about the New ZLA assignment, the one on the social contract and popular sovereignty, and then hopefully maybe you caught either a live stream for or the sixth or seventh graders, since everybody's doing the same work. That makes it really convenient, I guess, for all grades. If you happen to miss a day, or if I cannot go live or stream during one of my scheduled times, you guys can always go back and watch one of the other grades. So that's really helpful. And I know, like I've said multiple times, that a lot of us have siblings, cousins that go to the same school, so you guys can always work together, ask each other questions, and kind of work that way. It's going to be a little bit easier, I think, for those that have brothers, sisters, whatever, that are going to the same school, because again, everybody has the same material. Um, so we'll give it, about 5 more minutes here. Hi, Brandon. I think it's the first time I've seen you here, so welcome, bud. We haven't started just yet. Generally, what I do, Brandon, is wait about 10 minutes or so to give people a chance to join in, because maybe this doesn't work for. Um, and like I said just a couple minutes ago, it gives us the time just to hang out, catch up, see how everybody's doing. But Brandon, hope you're doing well. Same for your family. Hope everybody is staying safe, and taking taking each day one step at a time, because I know it can be kind of crazy. It can be kind of hard to get through these days. And then when they just kind of blend together, you don't really know where time's gone. It's hard to believe we've been out of the physical school building for like 2 months now. I think to the day. I think it was March 12th or March 13th when they decided to close schools in the state of Ohio. So 2 months we've been out and kind of doing this learning from home thing, which for some I think it's maybe going well. For others, I know it's difficult because of maybe internet issues or lack of internet, things like that. Um, Being able to connect with whatever device, whether it's on a phone, tablet, computer, whatever you got, computer, or some students I think I've heard that are connecting, um, through their gaming console or something like that. Just throwing up the web browser on their Xbox or PlayStation and kind of doing it that way. I see Chloe's here. Hi, Chloe. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying safe. Thank you to too for joining us so far. Well, yeah, we'll give it a few more minutes before we get started for the um, lesson today. Hey, Joey. Um, if you don't already have your Blizzard bag packet, make sure you grab it. That way, you can follow along with state. Okay, I don't have a physical copy here. I have it just uh, on my computer, so I can pull it up that way. But normally I try to have a physical version of it myself, but I don't have one at this very moment. Maybe I could try to print one out, but I don't. I might mess up with the connection. Joey, outside and finally warm enough to actually do something. Kind of sick of the very cold day. It's mid-May. It should be in the 50s, 60s, or in the 70s by now. I don't like where it stays in the 30s and 40s. Doesn't make it very fun. I'm gonna appreciate you guys coming on. And like I said, we'll be starting here in just a couple minutes at about 10 after or so. So again, if you are watching this later, skip ahead to about the 10, 11-minute mark so you can pick up with the actual content. But for those of us live, like I said, we'll start in just a few minutes. Has anybody been doing anything fun? You guys have a good weekend, I hope. Can't believe it's already Wednesday. Feels like just last week, or it feels like just the other day was Saturday or something, but hope you guys are doing well. Hope you guys are staying entertained and staying busy at home, whether it's watching some new TV shows, movies, or playing some video games. I've been trying to mix in a little bit of everything, playing with the kids, taking them outside. We're trying to get our gardens going, but it's been hard with like all the cold weather and moving the plants into the garage because it's going to get too cold at night and stuff, and trying to find a day where it's warm enough so we can actually plant them and stuff. So we got all that. I think last week or maybe it was 2 weeks ago now. I can't keep anything straight, but we had some roof work done, so that's partially why I had to cancel or not have the live stream for eighth grade last week. But so we don't have to worry about that anymore. I've been playing some games on my Xbox and stuff like that, and a little bit on the Switch here and there. Um, yeah, I'd like to get outside today if I can, since it's nice out. All right, so just another minute, and then we'll start assignment 7. So again, if you don't have your Blizzard bag packet, please make sure that you go get it and flip about halfway through the packet or so, because our focus is going to be on assignment number 7, the Great State. Okay, the Great State. There's no big like picture or anything on the front, or just got to look at the top of the headlines or the title of it. Like I said, it's about halfway through the packet or so. It's assignment number 7, the Great State. We'll be doing the readings and going over the activities. And we'll kind of approach this the same way I've done the other ones. I'll go ahead and kind of read the reading out loud because I know that helps some of us. If that's not your thing, that's totally fine. You can go ahead and kind of work on your own if you need to, or you can ask questions in the chat. Myself and any other students that are in the chat, we're here to help. Okay, use each other as a resource. Okay, there's no competition and stuff like that. So help each other out, especially those that are maybe in the same class and stuff like that. But yeah, it's about 11 after, so I'm gonna go ahead and get started in just a second here. So please make sure you guys have your Blizzard bag packets. I'll do the reading. Yeah. And what I do with the reading sometimes is I'll go off a little bit, provide some more detail than what the text has here. But I try not to go too far into that because I don't want to, waste your guys' times. I know we have other things to do, chores or looking after siblings and stuff like that. But the activities for this one are pretty straightforward. If you're just taking a quick look at it, the grade state activities, looks like we got some vocab with a word search. It's always fun. Okay, and then we got like a true false kind of thing on the next page where we're trying to figure out what word or what vocab will make this statement true. And then for the last part, for activity C, we're getting a lot of lists or a lot of options for different like professions or jobs within a state, and then having you guys try to think a little bit more abstractly about why that would require a little bit of more work, more education, and needing a license. Okay, so it's enough of me rambling. Let's go ahead and get started with the reading of the Great State. Now, to provide a little, background and just catch you guys up from where we were before, a lot of what we've looked at so far with this second Blizzard bag has been finishing up, the three branches of the national government, okay, the big federal government in Washington, D.C., with the three different branches of government, okay, with the executive, legislative, and judicial, and then looking at the checks and balances, looking at the ways in which our system works to make sure not one of those branches or not one part of our government has too much power. From there, we then took a quick dive into a little bit of philosophy and kind of the origins on government and really the ideas that people had about government, where people began to question maybe the rule of kings and things like that. So we, got into a little bit of Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, John Jacques Rousseau, who had these ideas of what they thought an appropriate and correct form of government is. That really kind of gets its power from the people and having this connection or having this agreement, this social contract between the government and the people. Hobbes saw it one way, John Locke saw it another way. Um, but at its core, it really looks at government should be something there that's for the people, and it really goes back to this connection or this social contract, this agreement between the government and the people. So looking at a little history, or sorry, then we transition into a deep dive into democracy, going back to the ancient Greeks with in ancient Athens, looking at the first kind of existence or the first thought of a democracy where people have a say in the government. We saw some of the positives of this form of government with the Athenians, ancient Greeks, but we also saw some negatives. Remember that citizenship idea didn't apply to everybody. It didn't apply to slaves, women, foreigners. It didn't apply to anybody really under the age of 18. In ancient Greek, you had to be male, you had to be of 18 or older. Your parents had to be, citizens in Athens. So that really narrows it down. Remember, the percentages from one of the last activities was very small of the people who actually lived in Athens were considered citizens and therefore had an active role in government. So we're going to switch gears to the more modern day and look at how state governments work. Because in the United States, we're a really unique kind of system here. So we obviously have the big federal government in Washington, D.C. Okay, that's your president, that's your Congress, and the Supreme Court. So that's kind of generally how I will say a significant number of countries kind of work is that they have that one kind of big federal or one national government. United States is different because we have also state governments. It's part of this federal system of government, federalism. And so you have your state governments, but then you also have your national government, and they kind of work in some cases together, but the states also work independently from the national government. And with the current situation of the world, we're seeing how this federalism um, system works, where each state is kind of open and able to do things on their own merit. They're not necessarily waiting to hear what they need to do from the national government. They're kind of doing their own thing. That's why you have Ohio approaching maybe reopening, quote unquote, one way compared to what some other states are doing, like Georgia or California, Florida, and stuff like that. So you're going to see some differences throughout the country, and that goes back to this idea of these state governments. So let's get back. Let's get started here with the reading. So the great state. So state government sound familiar? So state governments work almost exactly like the federal government. There are three branches of government: an executive branch, a legislative branch, and a judicial branch. At the state level, the head of the executive branch is called the governor. And so in each state there is a governor. Okay? So Ohio we have Governor Mike DeWine, and other states have their governors. It's like a state's president almost, but it's called a governor. Okay? Let's see. Each state except one also has a bicameral legislature, meaning that the legislature is made up of two chambers. Okay, so it's very similar to the national government. It has two parts, the Senate and the House of Representatives. So it says every state except one. And if you look over to the side, you'll see that they give the example of Nebraska just has the one kind of part of the legislature. So we'll go back to the reading here. So in most states, those chambers are called the Senate and the House of Representatives. The state's judicial branch normally includes a high court, often called the Supreme Court, and a system of lower courts. Those lower courts include trial courts and appeals courts. So there is a Supreme Court of Ohio, just like there is a national Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., and other states have their Supreme Courts. But then there's also the courts that work beneath the Supreme Court in each state. Okay, let's take a quick look at Nebraska, see how they're unique. So we're going to be looking at the little flip chart or the flip or the notepad just to the right of the reading. So Nebraska is the only state whose legislature has one chamber, not two. So instead of having a Senate and a House of Representatives, Nebraska's legislature just has one group of representatives that does all the lawmaking. Okay, again, that's up to the states to decide. There's nothing really that says a state has to have two chambers or two parts to their legislative branch. So again, that's one of the unique things here in the United States. All right, second paragraph. A state's three branches interact just like the three branches at the federal level. The purpose of having three branches is to balance power so that not one branch or person becomes too powerful. The state's legislature passes laws, the state's governor can veto laws that are passed, and a state's high court has the power to decide whether the state laws violate the state's constitution. So they talk about a lot of things there, but really they're saying, state governments work almost exactly like the federal government. Okay. So there is a state legislature, there's a state executive branch with the governor and his officials and his people that he or she nominates, and they become like advisors. And there's also the state judicial branch, like a state court. So you know the system of checks and balances, or this idea of a balance of power, still holds true at the state level. Okay. Um, in Ohio, we were supposed to have voting for the presidential election, the primaries, I think in early or mid March, so right around St. Patrick's Day. So the governor wanted to maybe postpone it, and then the Supreme Court of Ohio shot it down, and then there was some other like checks and balances in action there. So this was at the very onset or the very beginning of the global pandemic, at least here in the United States. And the concern was first people's safety, because you don't want people going out and possibly exposing themselves or being exposed to this virus that we don't have a cure for yet. And through some other kind of legal actions, they were able to kind of postpone this voting, so people can vote through by mail and stuff like that, or absentee voting. So we've had a lot of examples of the state kind of balance of power, the state's checks and balances demonstrated for us in very recent history, or in our very recent couple months here. And they also talk about how each state has a constitution. So like the rule book for what the state government can and cannot do, and very similar to the national constitution. And that's what eighth grade was kind of just wrapping up and finishing before all this stuff in the world happened. Okay, so we're at the state legislative branch. So right kind of in the middle here. The state legislature is the state's lawmaking body. The state's legislatures are the state's lawmakers. So each state is divided into legislative districts that contain roughly the same number of citizens. Citizens in each district elect representatives to serve in the state legislature. That means the state legislatures represent the citizens who live in their district. This way, the interests of the people in different parts of the state can be represented when the state laws are being considered. So this is again the part of the legislative branch, the part of the state government that gets to talk about and make the laws. Okay, so in these different districts, you have representatives. So this is an example of a representative democracy. So you have people. Maybe it's your grandma, or grandpa. Maybe it's your aunt, uncle, mom, dad, whoever it may be. They vote for people to represent maybe their issues or their matters. And this is different than what the ancient Greeks did in a direct democracy, where people can kind of put themselves in this position to talk about laws, discuss laws, and stuff like that. So again, we have a representative democracy here in the United States. Okay? So if you look at the picture next to the paragraph I just read, says many state legislatures have outgrown their historic buildings, such as the state capitol building in Arizona. Be nice if this were in color so we can maybe get a better view of it. But we can kind of if you ever go down to Columbus, you could see the state legislature building, the state capitol, and stuff like that too. It's all really cool. Okay. So let's take a look at the state's executive branch. Okay, so that we're going to focus on the governor here. Uh, So they're talking about llamas having antibiotics for. I haven't heard that. But you never know. Like that's news to me. I haven't watched a whole lot of like live TV and stuff like that recently. Been watching some old shows that I used to watch when I was younger. It's kind of like comfort food for me. But I don't know. It's that's interesting. A lot of the um, stuff, a lot of the cures and a lot of the vaccines for diseases and stuff like this, they do, and parts of them are kind of made through a lot of animal testing and kind of and stuff like that. So I don't know. Could be something to maybe keep an eye on, Chloe, but it's something new to me. I'll have to check into it. All right, so this of a state and has similar powers, such as the power to veto or kind of like reject bills passed by state's legislature. So again, in Ohio, let's say Governor Mike DeWine doesn't like or agree with a bill passed in the state legislature, he can veto it. So that's one of the checks and balances. So back to the reading. A state's executive branch also includes many departments. States usually have their own departments of education, transportation, or health and human health and other services. And those departments carry out the laws passed by state's legislature. And if you look at the picture, it says governors from each state belong to the National Governors Association and meet twice each year to discuss issues that affect all states. Okay. All right, so the state judicial branch. Okay, so we're at the very bottom section, just to the right of that little chart. Okay. So at the state level, like the federal level, again, which means like the national or country level, cases start in a trial court. In many states, the trial court level is called the superior court. States also have appeals courts where people can fight a trial court's ruling. And of course, every state has a high court. A state's high court reviews the decisions made by lower courts, supervises the other courts, and interprets the state constitution as it applies to the law. State judicial branches also include a level of courts below the trial courts. These courts can handle the thousands of smaller issues that come up every day, such as traffic tickets and minor crimes called misdemeanors. So yeah, if you guys have ever, walked to Haven Rest or anything like that, you've passed, a courthouse. So that would be one of the lower level courts. And then, if somebody goes to a court, is in a court case, they don't like the ruling, or they think they got an unfair trial, they can take it to an appeals court. And this chart just to the left of the reading is a nice little breakdown of that. You can see if you follow the arrows up, you keep seeing how cases can go higher and higher. So at the very bottom, you have the municipal or city courts. Those are kind of your ones you'd go to in any city. And then it can go to next level of superior courts, appeals courts, and the state supreme court, and so on. Again, this is very similar to the federal system of the judicial branch. All right. So I was reading on page 1, and we're going to get into the reading on page 2 here in just a second. So again, just please make sure you're following along, or if you're reading on your own, that's fine. If you got questions, please let us know in the chat, and we'll do everything we can to help you. Okay. So, looking at the great state reading of page 2, state laws. So, the state's legislature is a state's lawmaking body, but in all states, the quote law of the land is the state constitution. So, just like the United States Constitution, or just like the United States Constitution, a state's constitution describes how the state's government must operate, and it's like the rule book. It may also include other laws, such as requiring a free education for state citizens. In addition to the state constitution and the state legislative branch, there are usually other ways that allow or that laws can be made in a state. In many states, the initiative process allows citizens to draft laws they would like to see adopted. If citizens collect enough signatures, the law will be placed on the ballot for each citizen to vote on. The referendum process works the same way, but it is used to let citizens vote on a law already passed by the state legislature. However, a state law is adopted, the law only applies inside that state. So again, this is why some laws have or some states have different laws compared to other ones, whether it's things like maybe where smoking is allowed or isn't allowed, or maybe it's something like sales tax. So, in Ohio there is a sales tax. Maybe you don't get that in other states. There's also different laws in terms of age of when people can or when teenagers can start driving. That's really up for the states to decide. So, again, once a law is passed in a specific state, then it only applies to the people in that state. It doesn't then spread out to all 49 other states or just maybe states that are bordering that state. And if you haven't noticed, in the reading, there's some of the words are bold. Okay, those are going to be the key terms or the vocab words, and you're going to need that for a couple of the activities. So make sure maybe you're highlighting that or underlining it, circling it, or something, so you can come back to it, because that's really going to help us with the activities in the vocab search or the word search that is coming up in just a little bit. So keep that in mind. All right, so services, about halfway on the page here. So looking next to the big like antenna or the power line there. So state governments provide many services to state citizens. These include things like police, fire safety, child protective services, roads, schools, and parks. So one of the biggest services is maintaining the state's infrastructure. So that's a big fancy word meaning the basic support structures that serve a geographic area. So the things that you kind of see in a city or a town. Okay. So such as transportation, like roads, communication, like cell towers or phone lines, internet, lines, stuff like that, and power systems. All of these services cost money and are generally paid for with taxes collected from the citizens. So those are the things that taxes go to. So when you guys become of age and you start working, you're going to notice, what you're going to have some money taken out of your paychecks. Those are some of the taxes. Some of it's going to go to the national or federal taxes. Some of it's going to be state, and some of it's going to be city. That money is going to go towards things like helping fix roads, or it's going to be going to things that help with like the phone lines or other things like that, or maybe it's for a new school or they're building a new school or anything like that. Okay, so all of these services cost. Read that. Okay, so about 2/3 of the way down. So where it says very often, or hold on, sorry, I lost my place here. Sorry, usually. Okay, usually, however, states cannot afford to provide all the services citizens need. Very often, states look to find or look to the federal government for help. The federal government gives states money in the form of grants, which are sums of money designated for a certain purpose, such as improving an airport or providing health care to low-income households. So, there are a lot of people, think that governments, whether it's city governments or state governments, should be able to do more, but just that's not always the case in terms of money. So sometimes these state governments will have to go to the federal or kind of the national government, ask for some help. And if the national government helps, they can give them grants. Again, we're seeing a lot of this kind of action, or in some cases, inaction to help kind of fight this pandemic. Obviously, if you guys have been watching kind of any of the news, there's always, ever since it started, there's been a lot of talk about these tests for COVID-19s, whether, some states have a lot, some states don't have a lot, or we're only now getting, thousands of tests a day. It's so, as with any kind of system of government, this may be highlighting a possible negative of this kind of system of government where there's the state government and federal government as well, where, if they don't see eye to eye on something, maybe, and unfortunately, some people might kind of suffer the consequences of that. Um, but, it's true for any form of government. There's going to be good things. There's also going to be some bad things. So you just got to take it as a whole and, do the best that you can. All right, so the next section here, regulations equal rules. Okay. So state governments also protect citizens by regulating or making rules about many activities. Doctors, dentists, accountants, builders, barbers, and many other professionals must be certified by state agencies. Okay, so it must be certified. The state and local governments enforce building codes that specify exactly how buildings must be constructed. Okay, so there's certain rules or regulations that builders need to follow. People need to be certified. Doctors, dentists, they have to go to school. They have to go to college and be certified. They have to earn the degree. Teachers, we have to go to school. We have to be certified to teach in the state of Ohio or wherever the teachers may live. If they live out in Colorado, they have to be certified in the state of Colorado. So, for example, I'm certified in the state of Ohio. I cannot just get up and leave and move and then go teach in California because I'm not certified in the state of California. I would have to go live there, take the classes, and meet the requirements to then teach. So that's to help make sure that not just anybody, any random person can be a doctor, a dentist, a teacher, anything like that. So, or buildings, especially when it comes to construction engineering, certain things that need to be followed, rules that need to be made and followed to ensure that buildings are going to be able to hold people and not just start collapsing and stuff like that. So they also conduct, back to the reading here, food safety inspections at restaurants and schools as well, check to make sure gasoline pumps are accurate, and administer tests to people seeking a driver's license. The state's agencies that carry out these regulations are almost always part of the state's executive branch. Hi, Katana. Sorry if you've been there for a second. I was busy reading. Um, Good to see you here, Katana. Welcome to stay for as long or as little as you need to, but your day's tomorrow, but it's totally up to you. If you want to take tomorrow off for social studies and kind of hang out today, that's fine. But if you are following along, almost finished with the reading on the second page for assignment step or assignment 7, the great state. Okay. So again, all these kind of things, these regulations, these rules they kind of fall under the executive branch of the state government. Okay. So if you look to the left, Idaho's Division of Building Safety issues licenses to electricians, plumbers, and others. Again, that's really to ensure that these people are knowledgeable, that they have been educated, that they know what they're doing. It's not just any random person coming out to, hook up your wiring for the electricity in your house or to fix your plumbing issues. It has to be a certified person. Okay. Um, so last part here, local governments. Okay. Next to the little doggy over there. Okay. So local governments, such as cities and counties, get their power from the state government. The state decides what services cities and countries are responsible for providing and what kinds of laws cities and counties are allowed to make. So, because local governments are the closest to civilians, meaning just regular people like us, often they are the ones that can mostly easily provide services. Some services, such as schools, libraries, police, water, and trash collection, are usually controlled at the local level. Even so, local governments must follow both state and federal laws when providing these services. So it's just all, like a pyramid almost, this pyramid system. Again, you got the um, if you look at it, you got the national or federal government at the very top. Next, you got the state, okay, and under that you have your local or kind of city governments. If you ever are up early enough for your trash day or recycling day, because it's different in different neighborhoods throughout Akron, or maybe wherever you live. Our day is Friday, so sometimes if my kids are up and about, we're able to see at least one of the either recycling or the trash truck. That's something that the city of Akron provides. Okay. And it can be true in the city of Canton or any other cities throughout Ohio. Okay, so that was the reading of the great state. So I'll give you guys a minute or two here to kind of, soak it all in. If you had any questions, go ahead and ask them. And then what we'll do, or what I will do here, is just kind of go over the activities briefly and maybe help you guys out with a couple of them. Sometimes what I tend to do, excuse me, is maybe give out an answer or two just to help out on ones that maybe are a little bit tricky. And if you, again, just kind of taking a quick look at the activities here for the great state, a lot of it's vocab based. You get the word search here, but you also get um, the definition. So you're not just solely waiting on to find the words in there. But like I said, I'll give you guys a minute or two to kind of take this all in. And if you do have questions, please ask. Be more than happy to help. Okay. Okay. So let's go ahead and take a look at these activities. There's just three. Okay. There's three for this part. So for this assignment, I mean, so three activities, A, B, and C. So activity A, okay, the vocabulary search. Find and circle a word that matches each clue. When you find the word, write it on the blank next to the clue. Okay, so that's definitely one way you can approach this activity if you want. What I think and what I would suggest doing is go ahead and find the definitions or find the words here first. Then, if you have time, you can maybe go back into the word search and find it there. Again, as I told you guys when I was reading, um, some of the words are bold. Okay, those are the vocab words or the key terms of the reading. So you're presented with a lot of definitions here for activity A. There are 15 of them. Okay, and if I'm quickly doing a recap of what we just read, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Maybe I missed some, but I got about, a dozen, maybe a couple more um, of the bold words. Okay. So that should be able to kind of help us out. So let's look at a couple of these together. Again, if you have questions, ask them in the chat. Sorry, I keep on thinking I'm hearing one of my kids. It's their nap time, and hopefully they're not waking up already. Okay. So let's start with number one. Okay. Let's just start with number one to kind of get us going, and maybe we'll do the first two or three, and then we'll let you guys kind of fill in the rest or find the rest. And if you guys really want to complete the word search, you can. I'm not going to make it a requirement for this Blizzard bag because I know some of us are maybe a little bit better than others at doing the word searches, or it just takes us a long time. And I don't want you guys to spend 20 minutes looking for these 15, 16 with the mystery word down there, 16 terms. What I'm focused on is making sure we're able to, attach ourselves to the vocab and to, focus on the vocabulary, because vocab is the key part to really understanding the Blizzard bag stuff here, or especially for the great state. So again, focus on finding the key terms. Don't worry so much about the word search. If you guys want to just completely ignore the word search, I'm fine with that. Okay, so again, ignore the word search if you want to, skip it, but do complete the fill in the blank, or finding the correct definition here. All right, so number one, we will work on the first three together. Okay, so number one reads parts of the executive branch that carries out laws. All right, well, that's telling us what we need to look for. So we need to look at the executive branch. Okay, so let's look for executive branch. Okay, and that was on the first reading, or the first page of the reading, kind of a little bit more than halfway down. So again, the state executive branch, okay, it's about 3/4 of the way down on that first page, and we're looking for the word that helps complete the sentence. So what parts of the executive branch that carry out the laws? Okay, so let's go. Let's do a quick reread of it. So the head of the state's executive branch is the state governor. The governor is like the president of a state and has similar powers, such as the power to veto bills. Okay, so state's executive branch also includes many departments. States usually have their own departments of education, health, and other services. These departments carry out the laws passed by the legislature. Okay, so it just gave us the answer in there. Hey, Bree, what we are doing, Miss Travis, is going over assignment 7. That's the great state. I did the reading, and we just really got started looking at the activities. And there's only 3 activities: A, B, and C. And activity A, if you didn't hear already, is really a focus on vocab. If you don't want to do the word search, that's fine. I'd say it's a lot easier just to try to focus on finding the term that matches the definition. And if you have the reading, if you got the Blizzard backpack there with you, look at the words that are bold. Okay, that's going to be your key. That's going to be your clue to help you find those vocab terms. So we're just looking for number 1, parts of the executive branch that carries out the laws. Okay, that last sentence of that section there, the state executive branch, going to the last sentence here, these departments carry out the laws passed by the state's legislatures. Number 1 would be departments. Okay, number 1 would be departments. Okay. So number 1 is departments. Okay, that's the part of the executive branch, like the Department of Education, Department of Transportation, Department of Health, stuff like that. They're the ones that are carrying out the laws of the executive branch. Okay, they're the ones executing the laws. So number 1 is departments, and I'll put that in the chat here to kind of help out. And Malachi, correct, I think. Good to see you here, bud. It's no problem for being late. Like I said, I know this isn't always the best time for everybody. Maybe some of us are just waking up, or we got other things going on. But Malachi, what we're doing here is kind of going over the activities for assignment 7. Assignment 7 is the great state. Did the reading earlier in our stream, and now we're going over the activities. And we just literally started the activity A. I'm going to do like the first 3 along with you guys. It's a word search. I get some of us maybe don't like word searches, so you don't have to do it. If you want to, great, but you don't need to. I'd say read the definitions and then go back and then see what key term or what vocab word matches up. So we just went over number 1, which was departments. So I'm going to put that in the chat here in just a second. So part A, or activity A. This is activity A, number 1. That is departments. I'm not going to be doing this for all you guys, but like I said, I'll do the first 3 since these activities are a little bit shorter. I know in the last assignment there's like 5 activities. This one has 3, and it's mostly vocab based. So activity A, number 1, departments. Okay, that's the part of the executive branch that carry out the laws. Okay, then number 2. So number 2, a legislature made up of 2 houses. Okay, so 2 houses or 2 parts. Okay, so we want to go back to the legislator part. So if we look at a state legislature, okay, all right. So again, you can do a quick read up there. Okay, I'm not seeing it. A legislator made up of 2 houses. But I do see it in the very first section. So state governments sound familiar. So state governments work almost exactly like the federal government. There are 3 branches: executive, legislative, and judicial. At the state level, the head of the executive is called the governor. Every state except one also has a bicameral legislature, meaning is made up of 2 chambers. 2 chambers, also meaning 2 parts, also meaning 2 houses. So number 2, again, number 2, a legislator made up of 2 houses. That is bicameral. Okay, that is bicameral. Again, that prefix bi, bi, means 2. So think of a bicycle has 2 wheels. Okay, if you got binoculars, it has two lenses. Okay, so I know you guys have done a lot of like prefixes and stuff like that with Mr. Nelson in the years past. I'm sure you guys have done it this year in language arts as well. So number two is bicameral, meaning two parts, two chambers, or two houses in a legislature. Okay, and we'll do one more together for for activity A here. And again, not necessary to do the word search. If you want to, sure. If you like doing word searches, more power to you. But I'm not going to have it be required. And what I'm focused on, or what I would like for you guys to focus on, is your vocab and trying to make sure we get that. Okay. All right, and let's take a look at number three here. So, number three, basic support structures such as communication and power systems. Okay, so basic support structures such as communication and power systems. All right, so this would fall under the services section. Services. Okay, it's a big fancy word for meaning things like roads, bridges, buildings, cell towers, stuff like that. Okay. So services. So we're looking for basic support structures, and structure is actually going to be kind of in the answer itself. So that may be a little hint there. Okay. So again, look back into the reading for some of these bold words. Okay. And those are the vocab terms that are going to help us out here. All right. So state governments provide many services to state citizens. Okay. Um, these services, or these include things like police, fire safety, child protective services, roads, schools, and parks. So one of the biggest services is maintaining the state's infrastructure, or basic support structures that serve a geographic area, such as transportation, communication, and power systems. Okay, so communication and power systems, that would fall under infrastructure. Okay, so that would be our number three. Number three is infrastructure. It's one of those words I need to slow down whenever I'm typing or writing it out to make sure I have all parts of it. So infrastructure, again, meaning those things, when you talk about, the support structures that are given or that are provided in a specific area, whether it's a city, a county, township, whatever. So again, you think roads, think communication, power systems, things that state governments provide for their citizens. Okay. So that was, one, two, and three for part A. And you guys have about 12 more. So again, focus on the key terms there. And the last one where it says mystery word. That is one of the like, little sidebar things from the reading. It also goes along, it's like the opposite of number two. Okay, so number two was bicameral, meaning two houses. Number one would be the exact opposite, where it's that one state that does something slightly different. So that is a little hint there. Um, yeah, that may be a little bit, maybe a little tricky, but it's towards the beginning of the reading if you want to try to look at that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at activity B here. We got about 10 minutes left, so I want to make sure I get enough time for activity B and C as well. And C might be a little trickier than some of the other ones. Okay. So, activity B, it says that's incorrect. There's something wrong with each of the following statements. Figure out what it is, cross out the parts of the sentence, and make the corrections on the line. Okay. So, there's a total of five here. So again, kind of going back to our vocab, so making sure that we have the fundamentals down and the basics, well established here. So number one reads like this. So unlike the federal government, state governments only have one branch of government. Okay, so is this a so we know kind of right off the bat that this is not accurate. This is not true. So we need to cross off what is wrong and then write and make the corrections on the line. So you don't need to rewrite the whole thing. You're just writing what would make this statement more accurate or what would make this statement true. So let's look at number one together. So again, it reads, unlike the federal government, state governments only have one branch of government. Now, after looking through the reading, we know that this isn't true. We know that the state governments are set up very much like the federal government. So the state governments have three branches of government: executive, legislative, and judicial branch of government, just like the federal government. So let's cross some stuff off and let's add what makes it true, or let's add what makes it accurate. Okay. So it says, unlike the federal government. Okay, let's look at that first part there. So if the state government shares something with the first part, it should be like the federal government. Okay, so we would cross off or cross out unlike. Okay, so cross off. I'm gonna put this in the chat here. 1 second. So activity B. So this is number one, and we're gonna cross out unlike, and instead we're gonna write on the line, write like. So that's the first part. The second part reads like this: state governments only have one branch of government. So that's not true. Again, it's not just an executive branch, or it's not just the legislative branch in the state governments. It's the three branches. Okay. So this way this number one should read is, like the federal government, state governments have three branches of government. Okay. So the rest of number one should read like the so let's say number one continued. Okay. So have three branches. Okay. Again, you don't need to rewrite the whole sentence. You're just writing on the line what words or what group of words make the statement correct. So our whole complete now correct number one should be, like the federal government, state governments have three branches of government. Okay. So again, remember the statements themselves, how they're written on your paper, are already wrong. Okay. So we need to cross off what is incorrect and then write the correct word there. Maybe let's look at one more. Okay. We'll try to do this one a little quicker since I got about 6 minutes. I want to make sure we have enough time for part D as well. Okay. So number two reads like this: states are divided into districts, and citizens in each district elect a governor to be the head of their district. Okay. So again, automatically, this is wrong. Now we need to figure out what is wrong. Okay. So let's look at it kind of section by section. So let's look at this first part. States are divided into districts. Okay. Is this accurate? Yeah, this is good so far. States are divided into different districts. Okay. And that, where was that at? Sorry. That was in, sorry, I just had it and I lost it. I literally just had it and I can't find it. I hate when that happens. Okay, sorry, but on the first page, yeah. So each state is divided into legislative districts. So far, so good there. Okay. Now, let's look at the next section. And citizens in each district elect a governor to be head of their district. Okay. So again, the governor is not who we elect to be the representatives or to be a representative. And the governor is the head of the executive branch. So what we would cross off here is who we're electing. Okay. So we cross off a governor to be head of their district because that's not true. So we'll do number two here. We're going to cross off or cross out. We're going to cross out a governor, as Mr. Andrews can spell. Governor to be the head of their district. So this is what we're going to cross off. Just put it there in the chat for you. So if we don't elect a governor in each district, who do we elect then? We elect representatives. I'll put number 2 continue. So elect representatives. Okay. We elect representatives. Okay. We don't elect governors. We elect representatives. Okay. And I think, if you do catch this later, I think the live chat that, it pops up as it would have popped up during the live chat. Um, I think whenever I've watched videos, that's kind of how it worked. If I'm watching past live streams of YouTubers gaming or something like that, that's kind of how it's always worked. So I hope it works the same for us. I don't see why it wouldn't. But you guys are more YouTube savvy than us teachers, us old folks. So I may be talking a bunch of nonsense. Okay. So that's generally the approach you want to take for the last three statements here. Again, how the statements are, they're incorrect. So you got to figure out what you need to cross off and what you need to change to make the statements accurate to what you need to change to make the statements true. Number five, number five may be the trickiest one because that's only a couple things are actually correct there. You might need to change a lot for number five. So that's my little hint for you guys. And the last couple of minutes, I want to take a look at number five, or sorry, activity C. Okay. So activity C says licensed or not. So when you make a quote educated guess, you are guessing based on the things you already know. So read the list of professions below. Which jobs do you think most states require a license for? Think about what these people do and make an educated guess about whether they need a state license. Put a check mark next to every job you think requires a license in most states. Okay, so it's for part C, and it kind of seems like they're asking us to do a whole lot. So again, if you want to break it down this way, what you're really doing is just looking at the list here. So ranging from architect, cashier to electrician and hairdresser. Okay, that's kind of and everything in the middle there. You're just looking at that and just thinking, do I think this person needs a license? Do they need to be certified? So if you think an architect needs to be certified, that's a person who designs houses, buildings, things like that. Does a cashier need to be certified? Does a dentist? If they do, put yes. If they don't, leave it blank. So some of these are going to have checks, some of them aren't. Okay. If you have questions about what some of these jobs are, ask in the chat or ask mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, whoever. Okay, so if I'm looking, there's going to be a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Should be about 12 or so that should have a check. Okay, should be about 12. Again, not all of them are going to be a check, but about 12 of them should be. Okay. All right, now the last part of activity C here, or activity C. It says now choose 3 jobs that you checked. Okay, so for example, let's say we did pick a hairdresser. Okay, I'll do a sample one here. It says now choose 3 jobs you check. So our examples can be hairdresser. Explain why you think states probably require a license for that. And this is really just you taking an educated guess. If you put a check next to a kill, Mr. Andrews can't talk. I apologize. So let's say you put a check mark next to teacher. Okay, that would go in the job spot and then probably requires a license because, and then you give a quick perhaps one sentence explanation of why you think they require a license. Or maybe you picked a interpreter, maybe you picked a architect, whatever it may be, an exterminator. Okay? It's just you taking an educated guess. There is no necessarily wrong answer here because it's you taking that educated guess and just you really thinking critically about why this person or why this job, this profession would need a license. Okay. But it's just about a minute or so after 2 o'clock. Kind of hard to believe it's already been an hour. For all those that did attend, I appreciate it and thank you. So hopefully, I didn't bore you guys too much. If you need to go back and watch earlier bits of it so you can get the reading and stuff, you can. Or if you missed activity A and stuff, obviously watch this when it goes up. But I do thank you guys for joining us. If you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you want to catch this live, tomorrow or Friday, you can join the 7th or 6th grade stream, no problem. Um, but yeah, my plan is to maybe do a separate upload of another activity, another assignment, maybe sometime later this week. So keep an eye out for another social studies video. I try to keep those other uploads a little bit shorter, about 20 minutes, a half hour. Um, but yeah, that's all I have for you guys today. Again, thank you for everybody that joined us. Um, Unless you guys have questions, I'm gonna get my stuff ready and head on out. But I hope you guys continue to stay safe. Hope you guys continue to keep showing up. We do appreciate it. We miss you guys terribly. I want to be back in school. I went back to get you guys' first round of Blizzard bag stuff last week, and it's just kind of weird seeing a completely empty school. It was like a ghost town. But we do miss you guys, and I hope that you, your families, and everybody else is staying safe. But until then, I'll see you guys next week, or maybe I'll see some of you guys tomorrow or later this week on some of the other streams and stuff. So have a good rest of your week, guys, and take it easy. Stay safe. Bye.